Good morning and welcome to our Illinois Retired Teacher Association webinar about retirement. And welcome to those of you who are getting ready to take that next step into retirement. We're glad you're here with us today. My name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors. Do a couple of quick introductions here in just a moment. I want to take a moment while we have folks signing in just to do some housekeeping details. We are in a listen-only mode for all participants, which means we can't see you, we can't hear you. But if you have questions, please drop those into the Q&A section. The webinar does record all questions, and we can respond back to you with individual questions if it's something specific to your particular situation, or if there is something that will benefit all of us from hearing, then we'll have some of our co-hosts, Gary or Nancy, stop the conversation, address that question, and move forward after that. So we do record each and every one of our sessions. They will be out on the Illinois Retired Teacher Association IRTA website. And you'll be able to reference that in the future, share that with a spouse, share it with maybe a fellow coworker that's retiring that didn't get a chance to jump on today. You'll also notice some QR codes throughout our conversation today. So go ahead and have your smartphone ready. We're going to have some QR codes that talk about certain things, and you may want to hit your phone up with your camera feature and do that as well. So grab a pen and paper today. We want you to write down a few things. We want to do some for lack of a better term, just get a feel of who's on our call today and kind of walk you through several different things. So what we want to talk about first, and we'll go through the agenda, we're going to talk about what is IRTA, what is the Illinois Retired Teachers Association, why you should be a member of that, go through this whole mindset of now that you're free, you're close to retirement. What do I do next? Now what? What do I need to make sure I go through and take care of, and what those stages are in retirement. There are two main stages in retirement that you'll need to pay attention to. We're going to talk about what those are, how to make the most of your options. But to help us understand who is on our call today, I want to launch a quick poll. And let's launch this poll. And feel free to use your computer there. And just let us know when you're retiring. If you're retiring in the next few weeks, that's great. If you're retiring in the next year or more than 2 years. And I think most people on this call that we sent the invitation to are almost out in 2 weeks. So that is great. Congratulations. While we're finishing up this poll, I just want to introduce a couple of our special guests on the call today. Nathan Mihelich is the Director of Membership and Marketing for IRTA. They're in Springfield. Nathan, welcome. He's going to share just a little bit about what IRTA does and how they work as well. We also have our 3 leaders in Illinois with Association Member Benefits Advisors, and I'll share about that in a moment. Larry Newman, Gary DeVito, and Nancy Kramer. They are here to help you understand what takes place after you retire and how to handle those things. So we'll talk about that in a moment here. So as I mentioned, everybody on the call is leaving in just a few weeks. Congratulations. You've done it. Thank you for serving our children and taking care of our children. My wife is an elementary school teacher, and she's counting down the days. She's got 4 days left. And so she's excited about summer. But thank you so much for your service, for taking care of our kids. Now we want to, in turn, take care of you. And that's really kind of what IRTA does. And Nathan, if you want to unmute there, I know you were in kind of a loud place earlier, but Illinois Retired Teachers Association is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that serves retired educators. And their sole purpose is to help you understand and navigate the process of retirement and then be an advocate for you when that takes place. So Nathan, you want to fill in some color on what IRTA does on behalf of retired educators in Illinois?
Yes, I'd be happy to, John, and thank you for having me this morning. And again, congratulations to all of our teachers who are retiring this year. There's a lot in store for you, and the Illinois Retired Teachers Association wants to make sure that you have the best retirement possible. And what the association is it's an association. We are not a lobbying group, we are not a union, we are not a government body, but we are an association of retired persons. Mostly, we are members who are annuitants of the teachers' retirement system. So when you start to collect that first pension check, you will be an annuitant of the teachers' retirement system. So that makes up a bulk of our membership. And if anyone hasn't invited you to join the association yet, let me be the first to do so. we want you to be a part of our association for many reasons that we're going to talk about today on this call. But the first and I think the greatest benefit of the association is that lobbying and pension protection that we provide to you as an association. So the main mission of the association is to make sure that your pension and your healthcare benefits are there for you throughout your entire the rest of your life. So you may be unaware, but there are and one of our members is on the call today. She'll be able to even inform you a little bit more about this. But there are efforts to thwart you receiving that full pension that you were promised almost every year in the General Assembly. And what our lobbyists and our team does is make sure that those efforts that never see the light of day. So that's the cake of what we do as the association, and all the other benefits and other great perks to being a part of the association that you're going to hear on this call today. That's just the gravy. So we invite you to be a part of the association for that pension and healthcare protection. But then we also want you to take advantage of all the other great benefits that are available as a member of the association. So thank you for being here this morning, John. I'm looking forward to hearing what we have to say. And my colleague and friend Pat Hampton is also on the call today. She's a member of the association, and she's going to be able to talk about what the IRTA has meant to her as she has been a retired individual for many years now. So she'll be able to give you that firsthand account of what it's meant to be retired and then be a part of the association at the same time.
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate that. And we are going to call on Pat in just a moment to share with us a little bit of her personal story. But as Nathan mentioned, IRTA is here to do several important aspects. First and foremost, to protect that pension. You worked your whole career, and now you want to make sure you've got a strong pension. You want to make sure that your health benefits are preserved. I work with associations all across the country, and I can tell you no one is more of a pit bull on pension and healthcare benefits than IRTA. What they have done to put you in a position now to retire with dignity and make sure that your pension is there, the benefits that you've earned is incredible compared to other states. So if that nothing, it would encourage you to join IRTA more than anything is because of those two things. But they also keep you connected to your local retirement community. They offer you exclusive benefits, discounts, and things like that. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we go through here, but just a very important piece there. And Pat, if you want to unmute and come on, and let's just talk a little bit about the IRTA and how they can join. Right now, you can join 3 different ways, and I'll show you in just a moment. There are several different options to join. One is a $38 a year recurring membership via credit card. There are some 5-year and lifetime membership options that are really simple to use. Or you can go on TRS Dues Deduct, and that makes it super simple. It's just $250 that comes out of your pension every month. You'll never miss it. It's something that's really, really easy. And there are ways that you can join over 40,000 Illinois educators who have retired, protecting your pension and benefits. You can use your smartphone to hover over that QR code. You can text JOIN to 70678. And I mentioned pension dues deduct. And here's one of the nice things about that. If you join via pension dues deduct, that starts in February of next year. So it's like you get a whole 8 months or more free of joining IRTA and can take advantage of the discounts and benefits right away. So we'll go ahead, and if Pat is on here, Pat, are you on here that you can unmute?
I am.
All right, Pat, I'm going to leave this up here so that people can use that QR code. Share with us your IRTA story and why you believe so strongly in membership.
Well, it's all positive, so that's a good thing. I will say this, that when I talk to a lot of the people that I associate with in the other volunteer organizations that I participate in, many of them are retired teachers, and I'll say, oh, do you belong to the Illinois Retired Teachers Association? And when they say they don't, I say, why not? And I'll say it's only $2.50 a month to join. You probably spend more than that on a cup of coffee a day, especially if you go to Starbucks or something like that. And they'll say, yes, I do. And well, I mean, why should I? And I said, oh my goodness, they advocate only for retirement. I mean, retired teachers is their whole reason to belong. I mean, they just advocate for you. Do you realize that once you're 62, your 3% increase every year is due to them? Really? I mean, and I'm just like a person on a soapbox telling my story. But not only that, but retired teachers, I don't think realize that once their school district will maintain their benefits for a certain number of years as a rule. But eventually, I think when they turn a certain age, and it's been so long ago for me that I don't recall what that age is, but they no longer support their dental, their vision, their hearing, if they did at that time. But you have to go out and find someone, if your spouse doesn't carry them for their employee, employer, excuse me, that you have to find some benefits. And I say we have the best with AMBA. And so I tell them about AMBA, and then I have a sheet that I give them if it's appropriate. But I tell them about all the many benefits that you get with our AMBA with you guys. It is just a marvelous partnership. We have had your insurance for a number of years, your partnership, and it has proven to be excellent. We've had to use it in several, probably dental the most, but with the hearing, with the dental, with the vision, we've used so many of those, and we've used several of the other benefits. You have the long-term care benefit. You have the MASA, which we're a part of. Fortunately, we haven't had to use that, but as you look at the list of benefits, they cover so many areas. And another thing I like, if there's a question about it that someone has had, we have a person to call. We have people. You are so readily available, and you're so kind to explain, and you're so patient with our people. So I just advocate in a marvelous way. The fixed index annuity that came along a couple of years ago is a wonderful investment opportunity. So you have a wide range of opportunities for our retirees. Excuse me. So I would say it's not just the basics, but you provide such a wide range of opportunities for our retirees. And I'll go along not just AMBA, but even with what Nathan is providing with the travel opportunities. And that also has to do with AMBA as well. But retirees like to travel. I mean, they look forward to their retirement day so that they can grocery shop when the stores are empty, and they can go on some traveling opportunities. And so we have all that with our IRTA. So if you talk to me, I'm passionate about IRTA, and I think it's a wonderful organization. AMBA has been a marvelous partner, and I have no negative things to say.
Pat, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate the enthusiasm on this Saturday morning there. If you didn't catch Pat's comments at the very beginning about the 3% cost of living adjustment.
Right.
That is huge. There are so many states, and I live in Texas, are fighting for a cost of living adjustment that the teachers haven't had in years, retired educators. What IRTA has done to maintain that cost of living adjustment, to keep it there, to keep your health benefits, that alone is reason to join IRTA. Pat, thank you so much for being with us this morning, and appreciate your support as well. She mentioned AMBA, and just real quickly, AMBA is Association Member Benefits Advisors. We work with associations all across the country. Our goal is to help your retirement years go much more smoothly. We try to bring members to the association, but we also provide valuable benefits that you may leave behind when you leave the schoolhouse in 10 days, as one of our participants said. She's got 10 days with double exclamation point that she's leaving. So that's how we partner together with IRTA and associations across the country to help you. And that's what Gary and Larry and Nancy and their teams do to make sure that you understand that you're not going through this retirement piece alone. And the one thing I like about IRTA is if you've got questions about how retirement's working at certain stages in your life, that's where IRTA can help you out through this process. So it's not just, hey, join the organization, thanks for your dues, we're going to advocate for you. It's live people helping you throughout the whole way in there. And part of the advantage of having IRTA and AMBA together is that it can fill those gaps. And Pat mentioned it. There are gaps that when you leave the schoolhouse, and I'm going to show you that in a moment, that you don't take with you. And so you can cover those gaps right away. They're portable. I live down here in Texas. I see a lot of people from Illinois that come down here, at least in the winter, or go to Arizona, go to Florida. You can take these benefits with you, and they're not tied to any particular network. And because you may be retiring and you still have children at home that are on your benefits and may age out at some point, you can extend your benefits to adult children, to parents. You may be responsible still for your parents' care as they get older, things like that. And we have a lot of retired educators that will retire in their younger years and they'll go work a second job. But if they had a second career stunted because they had to take care of a parent, that could impact their income. And so there's different benefits, and Pat touched on some of those as well. So we're going to talk about some of those as we go through here. But let's jump in and talk about, as one of your members said, I'm free. Now what? Okay, the finish line is near, but you've still got to make sure that you're prepared. So I want to just ask you a few questions, and we're going to jump into some specifics here in just a moment that you can be aware of. If you've got questions, again, drop those into Q&A. We'll pause along the way and answer those for you. Make sure you've wrapped up your TRS paperwork. Most everyone has at this point, but just make sure that you've done that. Please, please, please double check your beneficiaries. Too many times, Gary, Larry, and Nancy and I are out with retirees, or we're taking out a benefit check or something like that, and it goes to a former spouse, or maybe a benefit goes to 2 of 3 children in the household because you never updated your beneficiaries. And how would you like for a pension to go to a former spouse, not to your current spouse, things like that? Find out what you're going to take with you from the school. Some schools will allow you to stay on COBRA for certain benefits, some that you'll take with you and you have to pay outside of, some stop them altogether. So you need to know what you're going to leave behind. We're going to kind of give you a checklist here in a moment. What do I do with my retirement savings? You've got your pension, and you know you can't outlive your pension, which is a great thing, thanks to IRTA, but you may have saved some money in a 403B, or put it into an IRA or a 457. It's a plan that you've had some money just periodically taken out of your paycheck over your career. What do you do with that now? Do you leave it there? Do you move it to something safer? The stock market's a lot of fun right now, and I say that sarcastically, but what do you do with that? And then now you got to think, how are you going to spend your time and money? You've been taking care of our kids like clockwork for the past decades, and now you've got some decisions to make. And so we're going to jump in and kind of look at 2 crucial life stages in your retirement life cycle. We're going to look at the pre-65 and then what you need to do once you turn 65 and going forward. Because what you do next on the pre-65 about work, what about your family, what am I leaving behind, that kind of stuff. Where are my resources? You really need to know what your resources are. We're going to take you through that. And then once you turn 65, what's going to happen next? Where does Medicare and Social Security fit in with all this kind of stuff? How do I make sure I don't outlive my money? Most people don't fear dying, but 60+% of us fear outliving our money. The good thing is you've got a pension. You're not going to outlive that as long as IRTA continues to advocate for that. But that may not be enough to support you as you go throughout there. Then you have to think about end-of-life issues, long-term care. Am I leaving a legacy behind for my family? Where do I get that help from? The good news is you've got resources, and we're going to talk about that today. So for those of you on the call who are retiring pre-65, congratulations. We're excited for you. You're going to take some things with you. You're going to leave some things behind. And some of these things you may take or leave depending upon the school that you're in, depending upon your situation. You're going to take medical coverage with you whenever you retire. Again, thanks to IRTA, because they are there like a pit bull watching out to make sure the state doesn't cancel that coverage. The state is providing adequate funding for it, making it available. Your carriers and the type of plan that you have may vary depending upon the county of your residence, depending upon what networks are there in that area. The more rural you are, It may be a little bit more different type of plan, but the good news is you're taking medical coverage with you. And Gary and Larry and Nancy and their teams can help you understand what that coverage is, because there will be some gaps in that coverage as you go forward. This is your primary coverage for medical insurance prior to age 65. We're going to talk about that change over to 65 after that in a moment, but you've got 4 enrollment opportunities. And again, this is why it's important for you to contact, and I'll show you how to do that, get a hold of us to find out what those opportunities are, because if you miss those dates, you will not be able to get in, or you have to wait until the next time that comes around. There are certain open enrollment periods. There are certain times and ages you can do this. So if you're on a spouse's plan right now and not on the school plan, you do have some opportunities, but please make sure you don't miss those. The biggest thing that you're going to find in this is there is not a subsidy for your dependents. So if your school district paid partial monies towards your dependents, spouse, and your kids, things like that, there won't be a subsidy for that. So that could be a cost that goes up for you there. The good news, as we've talked about several times, is you're going to pick up your pension that you can't outlive. And again, that's in large part to the 40,000 plus IRTA members who were fighting to make sure that that pension stayed properly funded, as well as keep that COLA provision in there. So that's great news in Illinois. Now, you may, depending upon your situation, depending upon the school district, depending upon how you purchase these benefits, if you did it all, you may take some life insurance with you. Most school districts, maybe you'll take 1 time life insurance with you. If you had more than that times your salary, you may be responsible for it on your own. You may get an offer that you can go out and buy it on your own. So pay attention to that. Then any of your voluntary insurance coverages, cancer, accident, any type of spouse or dependent life, any type of long-term care, if you purchase that, you may get the opportunity to continue that, but it won't be deducted from your pension. And of course, you're not getting a paycheck from the school past the summer. So you need to figure out how that can work for you. Again, that's what Gary and Larry and Nancy and their teams can help you out with. Now, you're going to lose your dental insurance and your vision insurance. Now, your school district will offer you probably some COBRA coverage, which means that you've got about 18 months or so, depending upon your situation, that you can carry the same plan forward. There's usually no subsidy. It might cost more, but you have an opportunity to make that up, and I'll show you in just a moment. You won't be making contributions to any 403B plan because you don't have it pulled out of your paycheck anymore. You won't have the ability to make any HSA or flexible spending account contributions, and then you won't have disability insurance because you're no longer an employee of the school district, so you won't have disability insurance. So you can see what you take is pretty important, what you lose is pretty important, and then you've got to decide in between. If it was important to you during your teaching years, is that important to you going forward? And I think that you may find that it could be just important to have that reviewed as you go forward. Let's talk about the dental plans. And Pat kind of teed this up real nicely for us. As I mentioned, when you retire, you're going to be offered from the school district for a very short period of time COBRA options, which is basically the ability to continue that coverage unsubsidized from the school district for about 18 months. Through IRTA, you have 2 really good dental options, 2 different type of plans for different levels of coverage. They give you freedom to go to whatever dentist you want to choose. It's through the IRTA network, which is the largest dental network across the country. You can use your own dentist if you're comfortable with that and you want to stay there. That's great. If they're not in the network, you still get coverage. If they are in the network, you get even greater coverage or greater savings towards your plan there. You can enroll whenever you want. That's the beauty of this. So if you miss enrolling in your COBRA plan coming out of the school, you can enroll with this. If you want to enroll this week, is next week, you can be effective June 1st. Whatever you want to do, there's no waiting period. You enroll near the end of the month. You start at the very beginning. Benefits start. There's no long-term contracts involved here. There's a 2-year rate lock. Also, the nice thing is say you've got some children that are in their early to mid 20s. Once they age out of your benefit eligibility, they can also get their own plans here at group rates if they're an IRTA member. So it's really a nice thing, and it has a rewards program. We want you to use your dental benefits. You'll find that good oral hygiene really goes a long way towards your overall health. So we want you to use your benefits, and if you use your benefits to a certain amount, you can carry over more benefits for the next 4 years. So it's really a nice way to save up money as you go through there. So really, really great opportunities out there as well. I had a question here from Suzanne about spouses being eligible for benefits. Absolutely. You can sign up your whole family on a plan as long as they're under that age 26. So your spouse can come in there as well. There are rates for individual only, individual plus spouse, individual plus family. And then as your children age out of a plan, then they can get their own plan. So it's a great plan there. So spouses are eligible, and there are group rates overall. The most important thing is to point out, you have to be a member of the IRTA. That's very important. That's how it helps us keep that group benefit rate for everybody. There's also another neat feature that comes with the Emeritus Dental Program. It's a free prescription drug plan only for policyholders, for members who are policyholders in the Emeritus Dental Program. 60,000 pharmacies across the country saved on generics as well as on brand name medications. This is not a Part D substitute for those who will be on Medicare, and you may have coverage under the state plans. This is free to you, just another way to save a little bit of money and carry that with you as well. You also have access to vision plans through IRTA. It is through the VSP network. Again, another very large network all across the country. Thousands of eye doctors, rural and metro areas, a lot of one-stop places like Walmart service centers. That's where I go get my prescriptions and things like that. And then I will take my prescription and go to 1-800-CONTACTS and use my allowance for my contacts. That way I get more contacts for the money, that type of thing. So you get frames, you get exams every year. Some, if you go to an in-network doctor, the exam for contacts, or depending on what it is, they waive the fee. There's lots of different things here that you get savings on. And if you're considering LASIK surgery, 15% off. That's a huge savings in there as well. So it's really a great plan. And I'll show you how you can get more information on that as we go forward there. Now, for those of you who are retiring pre-65, you've got some additional items to consider. And here's why. And I'll show you in a moment how it could impact you from a more income standpoint from Social Security. You have the opportunity, if you're healthy, to take another job. Do I need to do that? I've touched on the beneficiary issue. Please, please, please hear me out. Double check that, triple check that. Things change. Many times I have seen, you may have started out teaching and you weren't married. So you put your parents as your beneficiaries on all of your paperwork. You got married, had kids, but your parents still stayed there. You need to make sure that you get that changed to what you want to. How are your dependents going to get benefits once they age out? What happens if now I have to take care of my parents who are in their 80s and their long-term care needs? How do I do that? What do I go that way? And then what are those health issues that can cost most to me at this stage? And that's what Gary and Nancy and Larry can go through and show you between up to age 65 what your biggest health concerns could be. Then, as Pat mentioned, she talked about travel. How do I budget for travel? How do I budget for less income unless I'm working a second job, but for the fun stuff, the things that fulfill me in retirement? That's the neat thing about IRTA. They can help you out with that. They've got a cruise coming up. Is it Panama Canal cruise coming up in October? Nathan and Pat, I see some thumbs up there. They've got Cubs, Cardinals baseball games. There's all kind of fun stuff that you can get involved with that to stay connected to your retirement community. Then you've got to consider what you're going to do with your 457, your 403B, your savings plan that you've got. What do you do with that? Where do you move that? How do you protect it? Because you don't want to be overexposed to the stock market. As we know, it goes up and down. We've got less time to make that up. Who's your trusted source? That's the beauty of having IRTA on your side. They've been there for years. 40,000 people have put their trust in them. You can call on them to help you walk through this process. And then, how do I count on Social Security? Now, I'm sure you've sat around the water cooler in the teacher's lounge, and I've always wanted to know what's in that teacher's lounge because it's been this mysterious place. And my wife won't even let me go in their teacher's lounge at her school, because it's such a secretive place. But you've probably said, oh, you're not going to get Social Security, or, oh, I'm counting on Social Security on top of, that kind of thing. Social Security has greatly impacted for states like Illinois and Texas, in large part because you didn't contribute to Social Security if you're a TRS covered employment during your TRS covered employment time in Illinois. So any of your Social Security benefits you may have earned by working summer jobs or jobs that maybe you worked in college before you started teaching, those could be reduced for you, your Social Security benefits. I'm going to walk you through this to help you understand it, because this may make a couple of things. It may help you make a decision on whether you need to work some after you retire to fully fund some quarters. It may make a decision on how you think that you're going to get a certain amount of money, but in reality, you're not. And that's why it's important we talk through this here, because first is this windfall elimination provision. This is an issue that Nathan and the team at IRTA and about 20 other states are fighting constantly every legislative session. This is not a state issue. This is a national federal government issue. But the windfall elimination provision could reduce your Social Security benefits that you receive based on the fact that you receive a pension from a state that didn't withhold Social Security taxes. So in your case, Illinois teachers, this is your situation. So depending upon the number of years that you have Social Security earnings that you pay in, if it's less than 20 years, you're going to get 40% of your Social Security benefit. I'm going to show you a worksheet here in a moment, so you don't have to do all the gyrations in your head, but you still can collect Social Security. So if somebody there in that secretive teacher's lounge says you'll never get Social Security at all, if you paid into Social Security, you work some jobs that you had Social Security, yes, you will get Social Security, but it is probably not what you're expecting. And let me show you why. This is an example of a teacher that had a little bit of earnings for a while, did some summer work, then some years where they were nothing but a teacher. When I say, I don't say that lightly, because you're far more than that, but you didn't have any earnings outside of your teaching career during that time period. And so you're going to get this Social Security statement every year that says your projected earnings are going to be X number of dollars a month. Well, because this individual teacher didn't pay into Social Security in her state, the most she's had is 3 years of substantial earnings. So for anything 20 years or less of substantial earnings, you multiply your projected benefit by 40%, and she's going to anticipate $168. So you might have thought you were going to get what the Social Security Administration was sending you every month. They don't know that you're a teacher. They just know what you've paid Social Security earnings on. So you could be anticipating more than what you're going to get. This windfall elimination provision can hit hard. Please, please, please understand how this works. That's what Gary and Larry and Nancy and their team can help you out with. IRTA can help you out with. But this may make a decision on how you want to work a little bit more after you fully retire to pump up some of your substantial earnings, or maybe get your full 40 quarters funded so that Medicare Part A can be free for you. So there's lots of different reasons you may want to work going forward out there. All right, we got a question in here about spousal benefits. If your spouse paid into Social Security his or her entire working career and they pass away, will you get their Social Security, or will it be reduced, or will you not get it at all? Lori, thank you for that question. We've got a whole section coming up on that. So we're going to talk about that question in just a moment and address that in the after 65 section. So great question there. So now we've talked about turning before you turn 65. And that's a difficult time before you turn 65, because a lot of you have children that you've got to take care of, and you have parents at the same time. So you've got those things. Now, as you start to approach your 65, you have some other decisions you have to make. And these are very important, and we'll address Lori's question. When you turn 65, the state medical plan converts to an Advantage plan, okay? That Advantage plan takes in all of the aspects of Medicare and how that works. That availability is dependent upon where you live. When I say availability, because certain Medicare Advantage plans, or the Medicare Advantage plans, they don't have providers in your area. So it's very important that you understand where those providers are, and if you need just straight Medicare with a supplement, the Medicare Advantage plan, the trail plan going forward there. Regardless of where you live, regardless of your situation, you still have to enroll in Medicare. And Medicare Parts A and B, you've got to enroll at ssa.gov. You have a 7-month window that you have to go 3 months before your 65th birthday, the 65th birthday, the month of your 65th birthday, and 3 months after. During that 7-month period is your initial enrollment into Medicare. You have to enroll through ssa.gov. If you've fully funded your 40 quarters of work, and you have, if you've taught, then you will have Part A, doesn't cost you a dime. That's your hospitalization coverage. Part B, you'll have to pick up. and it can be about $165 a month, depending on what the federal government changes every year. If you're not taking Social Security, you'll have to pay for that out of your pocket. If you've already started to withdraw Social Security and it's enough, they'll take it right out of your Social Security check. And then you're going to have your Medicare Advantage plan. But you have to understand, even with your Medicare and your Medicare Advantage plan on top of that, there are some coverage gaps because it doesn't cover long-term care. It doesn't cover the expenses after a cancer diagnosis and treatment or heart attack and stroke. There are very limited rehabilitation coverages. And what I often see is that people will go out of state to receive certain cancer care or experimental care, and that can be a challenge. And the cost for transportation, things like that, are not covered. And then, as Pat mentioned, emergency transportation. As much as the federal government tries to regulate ambulances and air ambulances, they still haven't figured out how to get it regulated, and the costs on a retiree who is in Medicare can be substantial because Medicare may or may not pay for that. Same with the Advantage plan. So it's important to understand what your gaps are. Again, that's what Nancy and Gary and Larry can help you out through that. So before we jump off and tackle Lori's question about when a spouse passes away, you've got to have some other questions that you need answered. What if I have a younger spouse? How does that work if I've turned 65 and go on the trail program, but my spouse is still on the other plan? How does that work? How do I avoid outliving my money, like we talked about? When do I take this Social Security? Even if you have a reduced Social Security amount, then if you delay taking that, it can be a little bit bigger for you. But if you take it when you're first eligible at 62 or so, you'll never be able to get that to grow anymore. How do I pay for Medicare? Again, I talked about it depends on when you take Social Security. It depends on if you have enough to pay for it out of your Social Security check. If not, it comes from your bank account, or they'll bill you every 3 months. But we talked about, as we get older, we're able to do less things for ourselves. So we've got to worry about our own long-term care plan. We've got to worry about those issues that can really cost me. Medical bankruptcies are probably the biggest financial burden that people over 65 have, because they think that Medicare is going to cover everything, and it doesn't. And then, as we've seen in the past couple of years, inflation can have a huge impact. Not only does it have a huge impact on what we do on a daily basis as far as food and fuel and living expenses, it can greatly impact the earnings of our savings. And so we're going to, you need to understand that. Again, check your beneficiaries, getting your affairs in order. I'm going through this process with my mom. She's 82 years old. And we're just kind of walking through a checklist of, where are these documents? How do you want to be taken care of? Things like that. So it's important to have all those things in order. Again, with IRTA and AMBA being your trusted source there. And then to Lori's question, how do I live without my spouse's Social Security payment? And this is the biggest shocker. I was in a school, I was in a K through second grade school down in rural Texas several years ago. And I was just kind of walking through some things and speaking with a group of teachers. And a teacher that was probably in her early 60s stood up and said, I have to continue to work because my spouse passed away and I don't get his Social Security. And you could have heard a pin drop in that room. A lot of young teachers had no clue. You may not have a clue about how this works. And we can walk you through this, because the government pension offset can really be an impact on you as a widow or a widower. If you have a pension, which you do, that you didn't pay Social Security taxes, which you don't, you pay Social Security on your income as you're working, your spousal survivor benefits may be reduced. Okay, and I'm going to walk you through how that works here in just a moment. The way this formula works, and again, this is not an Illinois issue. This is a national issue. So I want to stress that out. This is not an Illinois issue. Your TRS pension, say, is $2,300 a month. The federal government applies a 2/3 factor to your pension, and they take whatever that amount is and reduce your Social Security widower's benefit. So stay with me, because I'm going to walk you through this, by that amount. And so therefore, if your spouse passes away, what they were receiving in Social Security, what you expect to receive as a widower, as a spousal survivor benefit, will be reduced down to a very little amount. And so it's very important that you understand what that is and what steps you can take to mitigate that. You may not be able to stop it now until we get it hopefully overturned or repealed at the federal government level, but there are steps you can take to mitigate that and make sure you don't have that loss of income in your family. So let's take a look at this real quickly here. If you take your survivor benefit, and again, this is a statement that you get from IRS, from Social Security Administration, you see that if you have a survivor, if you're the surviving spouse, you're anticipating $3,200 a month in this situation. Say you're receiving a pension of $3,500. The government then applies the government pension offset factor of 2/3 to that, $2,345 of your pension, and they will reduce that from the expected amount of your Social Security widow's benefit. So, for example, in this particular situation, the educator is receiving $3,500 a month in pension. The spouse is receiving $3,200 a month in Social Security. That spouse passes away, and that income to the household before death was $6,800. That household income after the Social Security earning spouse passes away is now $4,400. So it's about a $24,000 a year hit after somebody passes away if you were anticipating continuing to receive that Social Security benefit because of the government pension offset. Now, it's not fun. It's not something that we don't continue to fight. We just need you to be aware of this because there are some ways that you can mitigate it through life insurance, through properly setting up some of your 403Bs, things like that. There are some ways that you can hopefully offset this, but right now there's not a way around this from a standpoint of getting it to stop from a government standpoint. So that's the point of these webinars, is to make you aware. So now that you're retiring, you understand what some of the things you're facing. So Lori, I appreciate that question. Very, very important question because it's ones that people don't think about until it happens. And whenever that teacher that I was talking about in Texas several years ago stood up, the people that turned around in silence, realizing that they could possibly lose a significant portion of their household income, was pretty impressive in a sad way. And so it's important to understand that government pension offset question. And again, that's what Gary and Nancy and Larry and their teams can do. Walk you through how this would work, sit you down with your paperwork and explain these to you so that you understand the impact and what you can do now to prepare for it before it impacts you before it's too late. And as I mentioned, you don't have to do this alone. You've got help. So as you're 10 days away from retiring, congratulations. Take those final steps. Make sure all of your beneficiaries, all your paperwork is squared away. Know when your pension is going to start, how your medical is going to roll, what those costs are going to be. Join IRTA today. Again, I'm going to show you in a moment the QR code. Protect that asset. You've got health care and pension because of what IRTA has done for you, plus a cost of living adjustment. A lot of teachers would kill for that today. All because of IRTA. Join the 40,000, as Pat mentioned. Become a member of IRTA and schedule your benefits review. Make sure that you sit down with someone in the next couple of months to understand what you're taking with you, what you're leaving behind, and how you can fix that, what's out there for you. Just a couple of other things before we wrap it up. Pat mentioned travel. You have a program that is free to you through your IRTA membership. It is called the Passport Program. It is travel, dining, shopping all across Illinois, the United States, and the world. It is household goods, eating out. It is family travel. It is tech gifts for graduation, car buying, home refinancing, rental cars, hotels, the whole 9 yards, tickets to everywhere. So it's a way for you to enjoy your retirement years and save money along the way. This is free to you, but only for IRTA members. So this, if nothing else, for $250 a month, join this. You're going to save $50 a month easy just by using it one time each month. Really, really good for you. Example there, the Great Wolf Lodge, great family vacation, take the kids, things like that. Sometimes you can save it to 75% off a hotel room and water park passes. So really cool stuff there. Please, please, please. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Pat.
John, I was just going to mention, I forgot to mention Passport. I did have it in my notes and I skipped over it. We use Passport anytime we plan a trip, and we're traveling quite a bit this year. Roger always goes to that because we found it to be such an advantage. It is over I mean, over our ARP, over any other plans that we have, we almost always get more by using Passport. So we save more, and we're all about saving money as
Absolutely.
retirees. So Passport is a great, I hope people give it once they become members.
Thank
Excellent.
you very much. Appreciate that, Pat. And glad you and Roger enjoy that. Again, I travel a lot. I save a ton.
Yes.
Really, really a great feature. So again, this is Gary, Larry, and Nancy and their teams can help you understand Passport and things like that. So we got a question here that came up, and this is a great question. I'll move forward and address that question as we go through here in just a moment. So please, please, please tell any of your coworkers, anybody that you also know who's retiring, about IRTA and about this webinar series. We host webinars every month, and it's just a way to educate you on things that you may not think about. They're educational topics and ways that you can prepare for retirement. So if you've got questions, and I'm going to answer some that have come into Q&A, but I want you to do this a couple of ways. If you want to have someone specifically talk to you and go through your specific issues, take your smartphone, open up your camera feature on your smartphone, and hover over that QR code with your camera feature. Just like we used to do back during COVID with the menus at restaurants. A little form will pop up, and you can just say benefit review or Medicare or long-term care or dental vision, whatever you want it to be. Or you just said, don't check anything, just check benefit review. Fill out your information. It will come back to me. I will make sure that depending on where you live, Gary or Nancy, one of their team members will give you a shout. They can do this over the phone, in person, via Zoom, however you want, at your convenience, and walk you through your specific questions. Help you understand how all this works. We could spend 20 hours on a webinar today and scratch the surface. That's why it's important, and that's why IRTA feels you need to have an advocate on your side. So use that QR code. If you're on your smartphone, you're on a tablet and don't have access to your camera, my email address is on there, john.green, jon.green@amba.info. I'd be glad to take your information, then send it back to Gary or Nancy and let that take care of you as well. So hopefully that answers your question about specific to IRTA. Again, you can use that QR code. You can email me. If it's something that's IRTA related, then you can, I'll direct you back to Nathan and his team. So again, however you want to, use the QR code, use my email address. We'll get someone to help you out there as well. We've got people who are already members at IRTA, and that's great. I love it. I'm glad that you took advantage of that. If you want to find information about Passport, the best way to do that is use that QR code, email me. I can send you details about Passport, how to sign in, how to get involved in all of that as you're a member, because it is super easy, and you can take it with you on your mobile phone. You can use it on your laptop, your desktop, and I use it, like Pat and Roger said, when I'm traveling. If I'm on a road trip and I want to know what's the hotel that's cheapest coming up, I can just look at where I'm going. It'll tell me what's in that area. So it's really, really simple that way. So any other questions? Nathan, is there anything that we missed? The biggest questions you get from early retirees as to why they call IRTA and say, what now?
Well, I don't think so, John. This webinar today was absolutely excellent. It really gives you a broad overview of all the extra benefits that you get on top of that pension and healthcare protection that the IRTA provides. Well, you did mention calls, and I just wanted to mention that we do have a live person at the state office that can answer any calls that you may have, in addition to the folks over at AMBA too. So if you ever are in need or ever wanting to know anything or have a question, you just call the association office and you're going to get a live person, and we're going to help you through whatever problems you have in retirement. So we're here as your advocate. We want to make sure that your retirement is the best it possibly can be. And like you said, today is, we'd like you to join the association. We are a nonpartisan, a non-governmental association of retirees, and we would love for you to be part of this IRTA family. So I really do hope that you'll join today.
Great. Thank you, Nathan. Nancy, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. Oftentimes you get a chance to meet with recent retirees, people who have left the schoolhouse in the past, year or so. what does that conversation look like? What do you review? How do you go through that first initial, I'm retired now, how does that look?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we just, we want to make sure that we're offering our services to do any reviews of any plans that they currently have. A lot of times people have things that, I say they have to shake the spider webs off of them because they haven't looked at them in 10 or 20 years, and really we're here to help them, to give them information. What they do with that information is entirely up to them. But we want to make sure that, they understand that there is a lot of gaps, like you were talking about, John. So many people think that their health insurance and so forth is going to, solve all their problems once they're on Medicare or whatever. And Medicare is a good health system, don't get me wrong, but there is a lot of deficits and a lot of shortfalls. And that's where I think AMBA's products have come in and filled in those gaps. We want to make people whole and we want to make them ready for retirement. So, I'm going to ask them questions like, what's some of your goals, for retirement? Are you planning on traveling? Are you, what kind of plans do you currently have in place? If you do get a specific illness like cancer, heart, or stroke, do you have things in place to be able to cover those expenses? If you travel, have you thought about whether you ever needed an airlift or an ambulance ride? How are you going to cover those expenses? So all these things are things we discuss. We do a lot of data gathering, and then, we recommend to them, what would be a solution to the things that they probably don't see or that I didn't see, so.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate that. If you've got questions, drop them into Q&A. We've got just a few more minutes left, but Gary, I want to ask you, you were telling me, a year or so ago, you were meeting with a retiree that had taken out a long-term care policy while she was in her teaching years from the school. And she wanted to know, what do I do about this? Is it good? As Nancy mentioned, dust those cobwebs off. And what did you find in that? Tell us how you review those type of situations.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and actually, John, I've done that in the hundreds, if not near 1,000 of those long-term care policies, amongst other different types of benefits as well. But it's really an analysis of how was this set up? What was your goal with it? Taking a look at the way it's structured. Has it changed over the years? And a lot of times we see that there's price increases that folks have been experiencing with the long-term care plan that they took out, may have been through the school, or they may have gone to a local insurance agent. So they're wondering what to do with the plan at that point. And, the guidance, especially if they've had it for at least 5 years or certainly 10 years or longer, is always to keep it in some form, but there might be some guidance on how to restructure it in such a way that they still have good coverage, but it's not going to be as costly. So there's a whole host of different things that we're going to look at there. But again, it's all about providing the guidance. As I like to say, what we want to do is look at it with your eyes, but with our knowledge, and act as a fiduciary, because that's what we are. And we help you in the best, we advise you in the best way that we can see.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that, Gary. Again, thank you all for joining us. Congratulations on your retirement here in the next 2 weeks. We applaud you. And again, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking care of our kids. Now it's our turn to take care of you. So if you've got questions, please use that QR code, email me, call IRTA. You've got someone here on your side. As Pat mentioned, she's the most enthusiastic on the call today. She's loving what she's doing because she's retired now. Join this group just to see what makes Pat so happy, because you're having a good time, and this is a great way to know that there's somebody who's got your back. And IRTA is fighting to keep your pension and healthcare benefits there for you, the educational opportunities for you, and the partners to make sure that you've got the best of your retirement years. So thank you all for joining us today.
Hey, John, there's another question that just came in. Okay. Suzanne asks, she's looking to get some advice what to do with her 403B, and is there a charge for us providing advice? And the answer is no. We do not charge anything for providing advice and guidance on things like that.
Absolutely. That's part of what our IRTA does whenever they partner with us to make sure that we take care of retirees in the proper manner. And that is no fees involved whatsoever in that conversation. So Nancy and Gary, thank you very much for weighing in on that. Again, take advantage of this. I'm leave this QR code up, my email up there as well. We're going to stop recording. If you've got any questions, feel free to continue to chime in. We'll be glad to hang on as long as anybody else does there. All right, Deborah asked about the slide deck. Deborah, we're going to have this recorded. We're going to send this to IRTA so it can be posted on their website. We will also arm Gary and Nancy with the slide deck. So if you want to set up a time to meet with them and talk through it, be glad to do that for you as well. So great question. Thank you very much. So Pat, thank you very much for joining us. You and Roger, enjoy your time out on the road. Hope to bump into you somewhere. And Nancy and Gary, thank you very much. And Nathan, as always, appreciate you and the fight that you're continuing up there to make sure that our retirees are taken care of in Illinois. So everyone have a great rest of your Saturday and countdown to your retirement. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing you soon on another IRTA webinar at an event. Take care, everyone.